On this edition of SVG Sports Tech On Demand, we have the pleasure now to be joined by a good friend of SVG. He is Michel Suissa. He's Managing Director of the Studio-B&H. First off, Michel, it's great to see you. Hope you, your loved ones, and your colleagues are doing well. How are you holding up out there?
We're managing.
Mm.
It's sort of psychologically, delicate. And New York City is not exactly the happiest place on the planet at the moment.
Right.
But we keep our spirits up. It's very important, to remain hopeful, to be sort of a positive energy for the people around you, and also for clients and vendors and the people that are part of the community. It's important to be there for each other.
Sure, sure. Well, obviously business is open at B&H as well as the Studio B&H. Obviously not the physical store that maybe people love to go to and visit in New York City, but certainly the company is operating and fulfilling orders. How has the company responded to the COVID-19 crisis, and how have you guys had to dramatically shift gears in order to continue to do what you do best?
Well, I mean, it's been, I would say, a two-level transition, the transition for teams in the business-to-business department at B&H really have an established habit of working remotely. So the transition for us was not that difficult.
Okay.
What was delicate is all of a sudden the number of people who have to be working remotely at the same time. From 15, 20 of us, traveling around the country, being somewhere doing something that needs to have a connection with the office. All of a sudden, it's 1,200 employees who have to be connected remotely. So, it's testing our VPN in a way that it's never been tested before. But it's holding up, and everyone is able to perform. I would say at least 70 to 75% at full capacity. I think that's pretty remarkable, and especially given the fact that some of us don't have as much experience working from home. But it's been great. Our HR department, and IT department have been absolutely tremendous. And I think it's pretty smooth. It's sort of on a regular day. It feels like you could be the office. The interaction is exactly the same. You just maybe use video conferencing about 10 million times more than you used to.
Right.
But other than that, I think the workflow has been pretty seamless for us. And I think it's also been seamless for our customers. Everything from the fulfillment center, very strict guidelines, for shipping and handling equipment. But also, the e-commerce. Every web portal is open. All the sports leagues still have access to purchasing the equipment. The NFL, the NBA, MLB, NHL, MLS. All the other acronyms that I'm just not mentioning right now. Everyone who has a corporate account with B&H has their profile and their portal open. And we've been able to sort of continue to connect with the community at large, sports broadcasting, but also in other areas where they've had a need, for a different type of workflows that were not necessarily in place before this thing hit us.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, those remote workflows are definitely something I'm sure you're having a lot of conversations about right now. With some of the sports-related clients that you work with on a regular basis, what have been some of their needs and asks, and how have things changed maybe over the past month?
Well, I mean, the one thing that's changed for sure is the demand for more powerful laptops and workstations that people need to have, so that a lot of what used to be a sort of a local demanding type of workflow is now probably mostly remote. Mm-hmm. So that's been a substantial change in sort of our interaction with customers. Anything that is transmission, and it's up until now, we had a tremendous relationship with the guys at LiveView, for example, and all of a sudden, it's we even had one of our items shipped to one of my guys in Long Island who's operating a mini broadcast, a little studio. That's the studio out away from the studio, right? And we rebroadcast. We help test workflows and setups, for people who need that kind of environment. So it's been mostly for us. It hasn't been very large deployment, but it has been people who all of a sudden are unable to connect to their audience. How do we manage that? So we've given them sort of pointers as to how to use Skype. People who know used to integrating Skype into sort of a multi-source environment. How to send it to the cloud, or how to send it to be picked up by a number of CDNs or private viewership. So we've helped a lot of people doing that. We've also seen a complete resurgence of training, and it's actually in the sports world too. Sports training, people who can't get in touch with their students, their youth teams, and they want to remain connected, and some of them can continue to work or have some kind of relationship, and it's instructors and trainers and people from small leagues and all the way to universities have reached out to us. Say, okay, how do I stay in touch with my students? How do I continue to have an exchange with them so it's not sort of a complete void? So that's been I would say that's probably something that's going to change our landscape, for anything that is sort of direct interaction from person to person, and it will enable people to work in ways that they haven't before. So if you want to see sort of a silver lining into something that is pretty disastrous, on the humanity side, you would say, okay, we're going to be able to help people continue to do what they need to do, what they want to do, in different ways. So that's been enlightening. So.
Sure, yeah. Well, you guys working together with many vendor partners in the industry is something that you guys have always done very well, and I'm sure that's not changing at all. If anything, it's maybe ratcheting up. It's always great to connect with you at at an NAB or an IBC, which sadly we're not going to be able to do for at least the foreseeable future. But those partnerships continue to develop. Who are some of the vendor partners that you've been working with lately that maybe are new to the B&H family?
Well, we were going to have a pretty substantial showcase in Vegas with a recent partner of ours, Ncam, a specialist in advanced motion tracking for camera technology. And we were going to show their brand new system. It's called the MK2, who's extremely small form factor that sort of enables the next generation of integration of augmented reality graphics into live broadcast. And we're going to have something pretty substantial, and that's a partnership that we place a lot of hope into, because that's really what is sort of beginning driving. Even today, you look at that and you say, okay, a remotely controlled camera with all the tracking capability that is then being sent to a control room without really the need of an operator on site, that can be an operator sort of in the control room. I think that removes the sense of large human presence on certain sites where it might be delicate or difficult, in the near future. So aside from the technology itself, I think it probably has an application for how the industry is going to evolve that we're really interested in seeing how it works out.
Sure. Michel, we appreciate you taking the time with us again. Wish we were able to hang out under better circumstances, but
there's a lot more to say. So
it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for the time.
All right, my friend. All right. Stay safe, everyone. Okay.
All right. He is Michel Suissa. He is managing director of the Studio-B&H. You can find out more and watch more of our SVG On Demand series right now over at sportsvideo.org.